STEMconnector is precisely about cooperation and partnerships. When we started out, we clearly understood that there was so much being thrown at the supply side of STEM, throwing money against projects which we called STEM 1.0.
Let us partner more between private and public organization. Let us teach innovation excellence, and let us mentor and train our workforce. So from a demand side perspective, from an industry perspective, that seems tangible, that seems feasible.
And so Heidi and we joined with some 18 people for our first meeting, who came up very clearly with a cogent and precise focus objectives. One is to focus on what we're now calling STEM 2.0.
At STEM 2.0 is a signature initiative, or the signature initiative of the STEM Innovation Task Force, and is by far the big priority we're working on for 2014, but also much beyond. We have started with a series of STEM 2.0 roundtables. We're just having one today here in Washington, D.C., which is a very exciting roundtable around innovation excellence.
Well, I think it's incredibly valuable that we have business leaders and leaders in higher ed, both at the community college level and university level, at the table together, talking about how we come together to develop the skills and the knowledge and the capabilities that the future workforce needs.
So we're going to talk about the multidisciplinary skill set, and what I wanted to do was just share a few perspectives, because what I find in the conversations and the work that I do is nobody disagrees with the point of view that we need cross-functional collaboration, that we need to bring multiple perspectives to the table, that we can't just rely on the same point of view. We hear this over and over again.
I think that everyone needs to be able to think creatively. I think everyone needs to be able to do and have the skills that we ascribe to innovators, right? Things like observation, asking the right questions, being able to structure an experiment. Those things are relevant in a financial services company as much as they are a high-tech company, as much as they are K through 12 education.
And innovation is really something that makes humans unique. We love to create, we love to solve problems, and it's really just enabling people to do that, giving them the skills, giving them the opportunity to innovate. One of the things that we've talked about in IRI before is, do we need some grand challenges? You think back to the 60s and the space race and all the technology, miniaturization of electronics, medical sensors, just a whole wide range of things grew up out of that were very multidisciplinary.
I am a huge fan of project-based as being the way we do it, and as the way you add a layer that changes the skill set, changes the perspective, because it requires the actual doing. There's really no other way around it other than doing it and working through those experiments and being exposed to different disciplines while they're working on projects, not just singular disciplinary projects.
First of all, innovation is no longer a choice. In order to be relevant in any marketplace, and especially in ours with healthcare, it's imperative that we innovate. And when we talk about innovation, I'm not talking about just the big or the great ideas, because a huge disruption happens only once in a while and requires also a great amount of investment.
We spoke a lot about unconstrained thinking to allow for those big breakthroughs, but most of the time in industry, we're all constrained. So, for example, I have chief engineers who have these great ideas, but they'll come back with a $10 million price tag in 5 years. And right up front, I'll have to say, we don't have that much time, but we have to innovate. So I'm kind of interested in hearing about how to innovate in a constrained environment.
Thinking optimistically, it's like, how do we actually set people up for success? It's not just giving them resources, but let's think through the arc of what a student's experience might be. Can't simply say, like, let's create this program. It's how do they get into that? How do they find out about it? What is their experience going to be? How are they going to carry it with them as they go from the experience?
I think we actually need to educate students much more broadly about what kind of opportunities are available, especially in this moment as there's so many startups where people are actually creating opportunities for themselves. I think we're in a really interesting moment to be able to clinch that and to make other people self-starters, not just in a certain sector of the American population, but more broadly speaking.
So one of the interesting principles of FIRST is that we don't have an education crisis, we have a culture crisis. Which basically says we live in a culture that celebrates sports, that celebrates entertainment, but it doesn't celebrate innovation and science and technology and the life-changing impacts that those technologies and skills can have.
I almost think innovation is innate. It really exists in kids. I think it's almost like we lose the learning or we lose the natural ability. Well,
so I see this conversation as important because it's very much about a hand-in-glove relationship. We are each other's supplier as well as each other's customer, and understanding what the other needs and how far each of us has a responsibility to go so that we are effectively building for the future. That's why these conversations are critical and what we each have to learn out of them.
So my observation on the education side is that you have to, in many cases, we have to force those experiences so that we forge that first level of awareness and exposure to other perspectives and other disciplines, which then creates a degree of confidence that you don't know it all, and in fact that you have to have these other perspectives represented, which then leads to a new sort of resourcefulness and ability to see the edges, if you will, even though you're always founded in and based in a core.
So if business helps them by supplying project-based assignments that don't necessarily have a gradable answer, completion is the end, to say it's not A, B, C, or D, it's whatever you think, and the business would stay engaged to judge the final product.
So, I mean, so far we've been talking about teaching skills to individuals, making them innovators. Whereas in companies, it's not individuals, it's teams. So understanding if somebody has a bent of mind which is focused on marketing, how do you integrate them as part of that team?
I want to come back to this teaching innovation point and simply say that remarks were terribly useful. It is just problem solving. It does go back in part to Six Sigma. There's a whole range of things here that relate to problem solving, continuous improvement a la Deming, innovation that has been the hallmark of employers' culture and action for 20 years.
I think innovation is actually critical in order for our country, for our economy to create jobs, to create value. We need graduates that have this skill set.
One of the issues that I think exist in the world of work is there's not an agreed upon set of competencies, or maybe there is, and that we just don't have the same language that we're using across all of the industries. So as an example, if there's all the corporations that have their training programs, or there's being training taught in the community colleges, etc., what is coming out of that may be the same, it's just being called something different. And that leads to mass confusion in the industry.
So far, the STEMconnector and the Innovation Task Force has been a really good experience for me, for being involved in the conversations, to have those interactions with the individuals from industry has been really valuable for me.
First thoughts coming out of the Roundtable today, where we had an amazing interactive discussion between different stakeholders, educators, government, and the industry.
So in essence, as we celebrate today at our meeting of innovation excellence, we know that we're doing it because we're building effective collaboration and partnerships. We're connecting all those dots, and we're making commitments to drive tremendous change.